If you keep calling this laziness, there's a good chance it's actually a protection pattern. You look at the stalled task, the ignored message, the laundry pile, and decide your character failed. But your nervous system may be rationing energy, scanning for risk, or bracing for shame. Most people learn a very simple story here. Productive means good. Delayed means undisciplined. So when action feels heavy, the mind reaches for the moral explanation first. Because it sounds cleaner than admitting you feel overloaded, uncertain, resentful, or quietly afraid. That misreading makes sense. Laziness is a familiar word. It gives you a villain and a verdict in one breath. The problem is that shame rarely creates steady action. It narrows attention, spikes threat, and often pushes the exact shutdown you were already judging. Research on polyvagal theory, especially Stephen Porges' work, offers a gentler frame. When the system detects strain, it can shift away from flexible engagement into protection. Sometimes that looks activated and frantic. Sometimes it looks flat, foggy, slow, and impossible to start. Interoception matters here too. That's your ability to notice internal signals like tension, dread, hunger, and depletion. When interoceptive awareness is weak or overridden, you may miss the early cues. You only notice the crash, then call yourself lazy for arriving there. Elaine Aron's work on high-sensitivity processing is useful as well. Some people process more depth, more nuance, more stimulation. That can bring creativity and empathy. It can also make ordinary demands more metabolically expensive, especially when pressure, conflict, or perfectionism are in the room. So the pattern often starts long before the task. Your brain remembers what effort has cost before. Being criticized after trying, being needed too much, working hard and still feeling behind. The body stores those associations, then hesitates when a similar demand shows up. Another layer is prediction. The nervous system is constantly estimating how much energy something will take and whether the outcome feels safe enough to justify that cost. If the estimate says too much effort, too much exposure, too little reward, initiation can stall. Perfectionism makes this sharper. If beginning a task also means risking visible imperfection, the system may prefer delay over danger. From the outside, it looks passive. Internally, a lot is happening. You are avoiding a collapse in self-worth more than avoiding the task itself. Then shame adds glue. Once you call yourself lazy, the task becomes loaded with identity. It no longer means answer the email. It means prove you are not defective. That is a much heavier object to lift, so the avoidance cycle becomes easier to repeat. You see this at work, when a simple deliverable sits untouched for 3 hours. Even though you care deeply about doing it well. You reorganize tabs, reread one sentence, get coffee, check messages, then feel disgusted with yourself because the resistance looks irrational. It shows up in relationships when replying to someone you love feels strangely impossible. You want to answer. You even draft it in your head. But if connection has become tied to pressure, expectation, or fear of disappointing them, silence starts functioning like protection. Family brings its own version. You keep postponing the call home, then tell yourself you're selfish or careless. But maybe your body remembers criticism, guilt, or emotional labor arriving every time you pick up. Delay can become a crude attempt to preserve equilibrium. Even bedtime can carry this pattern. You stay up scrolling while exhausted, then accuse yourself of having no discipline. Sometimes the day has asked too much of you. The late-night delay becomes a small, costly protest. It is borrowed autonomy, not simple irresponsibility. The useful shift is very plain. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" ask, "What is this protecting me from right now?" That question interrupts the moral verdict. It gives you information about threat, depletion, resentment, grief, or fear of being evaluated. A second practice is to shrink the target until the body stops bracing. Open a document and title it. Put one plate in the sink. Stand near the shower for 30 seconds. Small starts matter because they reduce predicted cost and restore a sense of doable action. And regulate before interpretation. Feet on the floor. Longer exhale than inhale for 1 minute. Name 5 blue or green objects. Then ask what the task means to you emotionally. Your feeling is real. Your first interpretation might not be. Over time, you start noticing that many people carrying this pattern are not indifferent. They care intensely, sometimes too intensely. The stuckness comes from overcoupling action with danger, worth, or exhaustion. So the freeze is often built from vigilance, not apathy. You also notice how often these people were praised for being capable, while privately overwhelmed. They learned to override early limits because others depended on their functioning. When the body finally resists, they read the resistance as failure instead of accumulated unpaid cost. A lot of sensitive, high-functioning adults live with invisible traffic inside. They can hold nuance, anticipate outcomes, and feel subtle shifts in other people quickly. Useful traits. Expensive traits too. When life gets dense, the processing load alone can make initiation feel heavier. There is often grief under the procrastination. Grief for the version of you that could do more before burnout, before heartbreak, before years of carrying too much. You compare current output to an older self, then use shame to close the gap. Usually, it widens it. Many people also confuse urgency with motivation. If panic has powered most of your accomplishments, calm can feel like emptiness. You wait for the adrenaline spike to make movement possible. When it does not come, you assume you have become lazy, instead of seeing dependence on stress chemistry. This is why rest sometimes fails to fix it. Rest helps, of course, but if the task is linked with exposure, conflict, or the possibility of not being enough, sleep alone will not resolve the freeze. The body also needs evidence that action can happen safely. You may have noticed this with creative work. The piece matters, so beginning feels enormous. The blank page contains judgment, memory, and hope all at once. Delay becomes a way of preserving possibility. If it stays unfinished, it cannot fully disappoint you. You may have noticed it with cleaning too. One dish turns into the whole apartment, then into a referendum on your adulthood. The nervous system sees a mountain where the eyes see a plate. So your body backs away from the meaning, not the object. The gentler response is specificity. Instead of saying, "I need to get my life together," say, "I am avoiding opening the budget spreadsheet because I feel behind and ashamed." Precision reduces fog. The moment the threat gets named, it often shrinks enough to work with. Another thing years of watching this pattern teaches you is that compassion has to be sturdy, not sugary. Softness is useful when it tells the truth. You are responsible for your actions. You are also easier to mobilize when you stop turning every delay into a character indictment. Sometimes the repair is practical. Lower the friction. Put the form on the desktop. Draft the reply with 2 sentences. Fold only the shirts. Ask for a deadline extension before the dread becomes a wall. Support is often less dramatic than the shame story suggests. Sometimes the repair is relational. Tell one safe person, "I keep calling myself lazy, but I think I'm shutting down around pressure." Being accurately seen changes the load. Fonagy's work on mentalization points toward this. A mind becomes easier to use when it feels understood. So if this pattern has been following you around, try reading it with more precision and less contempt. Your nervous system is making sense, even when your life doesn't. Take a breath. Name the pattern, and I'll see you in the next one. Which one of these landed too close to home? Be specific.